pre-council meeting dated February 16th, 2022. I'd like to start this meeting. There is a lead-free presentation. Councilwoman Katie Aiello sponsored this presentation, and I'll give her the floor. Katie?
Sure, thank you so much. To continue our conversation on lead in the homes, I've reached out and I've learned so much from Caroline Williams she's the program manager for Lead-Free Mohawk Valley, and Christine Lennon is the Lead Safe Utica program manager. So I thought that they would be a great resource to just finish the rest of this conversation as we decide what to do in Utica. So I'll let you guys take it away.
I'm going to stand up here because I probably need advanced slides. So hopefully you all can see. As Katie mentioned, I'm Caroline Williams. I'm the program manager for the Lead-Free Mohawk Valley Initiative. We've been working on lead, particularly paint and housing, since 2016. It was funded through an initiative through the Community Foundation. So we're going to provide you some information, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to stop us, or we can do questions at the end.
All right. My name is Christine Lennon. I am the Lead Safe Utica program manager at the Homeownership Center. Lead Safe Utica is the HUD grant that was awarded to the city, and the Homeownership Center is the subrecipient of that grant, and I'm also an EPA certified risk assessor.
Michael, can you help Caroline with some technical issues? To get down through the slides?
Spacebar? Hit the spacebar.
Whatever I did just did it. Now if I can repeat that 10 more times, we should be good.
All right. So just some common lead hazards in the home would be deteriorated lead-based paint components like your siding and your windows and your doors and your friction and your impact surfaces. Household dust, exposed soil, and bare dirt are major contributors to childhood lead poisoning. Also lead plumbing fixtures, water service lines that do not have corrosion control, and some consumer products like toys and makeup and spices and mini blinds, things like that, all contribute to lead hazards in the home. Okay. I'm just gonna read these guys. So, although consumer uses were banned by the federal government in 1978, lead-based paint remains one of the most significant sources of lead exposure. Importantly, the burden of lead exposure is not uniform. Black, low-income, and immigrant populations are more likely to have elevated lead levels compared to the national average. And according to the Center for Disease Control, in 2020, 2.6 million families in the United States were at risk of lead poisoning due to the presence of lead-based paint in their homes.
There we go. Sorry.
So lead-based paint is considered a hazard under the 5 following conditions. Lead paint that's on a chewable surface, think like mouth height for a child. Lead paint that's on an impact surface. Impact surfaces are things that are commonly hit when people are moving furniture, walking in their homes, things like that. Lead paint on friction surfaces, so think opening and closing windows, opening and closing doors, that creates lead dust. Paint that is peeling, chipping, caulking, cracked, or otherwise deteriorated. Deteriorating paint is the visual indicator of lead hazard, so the lead dust. So you can't see the lead dust, but if you can see chip, peeling, cracking paint, you know that there is the lead dust hazard, which contributes the highest to childhood lead poisoning. And then bare soil around the house. So house has been painted with lead paint. Bare soil around it will contain lead, in addition to bare soil where cars that had leaded gasoline had been driving by, or near factories that use lead, that lead will settle into the soil. So like I said, lead-contaminated interior dust is the most direct source of a child's lead exposure. Dust acts as a pathway for lead from lead-based paint, exterior soil, and dust carried home from occupational exposure, like if you're a construction worker. Lead dust can form when painted surfaces bump, rub together. Dust can also form when lead-based paint is dry scraped, dry sanded, or heated. And lead-contaminated exterior bare soil is a concern as both a direct source of exposure through some hand-to-mouth activity and as a contributor to indoor lead dust if you're tracking it in from outside.
Okay. So just a little bit of history about lead and plumbing, because I know that's been a topic you guys have been talking about a lot. In 1991, the EPA enacted the lead and copper rule, which reduced lead and copper levels in water to 15 parts per billion. In 1993, the Los Angeles Times listed a list of water systems that didn't meet that requirement. Utica, New Hartford, and Marcy all had levels at 160 parts per billion. And so that was in 1993, so you're talking 30 years ago. In 1996, the Water Authority was formed, and out of 54 samples in 2006, only 2 households were found to have lead levels that exceeded the EPA level. And currently, the 2020 Mohawk Valley Water Annual Quality Report is within compliance at 13. So if the lead level had stayed at 160 parts per billion, not only would you have seen way more poisoning, but the fact that the Mohawk Valley Water Authority has been in compliance for more than 15 years means that the lead poisoning of children is coming from a different source. If they weren't in compliance, you could see where water might contribute, but in this case, because they're within compliance, it's more likely that paint from housing is actually the cause. As you can see, here's just a screenshot of the lead water quality report. They are not in violation. They're at 13 parts per billion, and the limit is 15. And then there's the link if anyone actually wants to go look at the report.
Do you know what they did to change? They changed them?
That when they started using corrosion control measures, so that was the really big issue in Flint, Michigan, right? Wasn't that it had lead pipes. It was that it went from Lake Superior source to a river source, and when they switched as a cost control measure, they stopped using corrosion control in their water. When they stopped using the corrosion control, then the lead will leach out of the pipes into the water. So the reason that we're in compliance is because our water authority uses corrosion control. Whoops, I haven't actually talked about this slide. Maybe I should do that. Consumer products. So the other place that people can get poisoned is through consumer products like toys, makeup, spices, those types of things. At the same time that lead-based paint in 1978 was banned, the Consumer Product Safety Commission also banned lead in most consumer products. There are a few exemptions, but most of them got taken care of with this to conform to the Lead-Based Paint and Poison Prevention Act. And Oneida County Health Department is really the one that looks at those consumer products. If they go into a house where a child's been poisoned and has an elevated lead level, they will do an environmental investigation. And as part of that investigation, they will look at other things that might be poisoning a child, not just paint, soil, or water.
So, I've got a handout, and you might be wondering why there's a little sugar packet attached to it, and I just wanted to put a visual to how dangerous lead dust can be. So 1 sugar packet sprinkled throughout a 2 to 3 bedroom home, 1,500 square feet, is enough to poison a child above the action level. So just literally this much dust in someone's house from opening and closing a window or shutting a door that has lead paint will poison that child.
And I don't know about anybody else's house, but my house has way more dust than a sugar packet. I'm not particularly attentive to that. Whoops. I don't know if I can go back. Oh, that actually worked. Lead paint and housing. So one of the reasons that Utica has an issue with lead paint and lead issues, and that includes water lines, that includes housing, is that we're an older city and we're an older industrial city. So a lot of housing, 87% of housing that was built before 1940, there's a good chance that that house has paint that is leaded. And then it goes down a little bit when you go from 40 to 59, and it goes down a little more before from 60 to 77. Now, we'd assume that after 1978, when it was banned, that all housing built after that would be lead-free, and for the most part it is. There was some paint stock that was still remaining that may have been used, or people might have had older paint left over from projects, but for the most part, after 1978, housing should be free of lead. So a little bit of housing data for Utica so they kind of understand that impact. According to the 2019 Census American Community Survey estimates, the total housing in the city of Utica is just under 23,000. The housing built through 1979, when lead was banned, is 92%, a little right around 21,000. So if you think about 90% of the housing that is in the city of Utica has the potential to poison a child. And housing units built from through 1939, which is that 1940 level, 52%. So more than half had that higher level of lead expectancy. And this is just kind of a before and after picture of some of the lead hazard reduction work we do in the city to help contain paint. So this house has been repainted, all the trim's been repainted and resided so that that lead hazard is encapsulated.
So just a quick overview of the Utica HUD grant. In 2018, HUD awarded a lead hazard reduction grant to the city of Utica, which provided $1.8 million for lead-based paint hazard reduction activities and $600,000 for healthy home repairs. The HUD grant provides up to $20,000 per unit in lead paint hazard reduction and $5,000 per unit in healthy home repair. Not every house that gets lead reduction can get healthy homes repair. There's just not an equal amount of funding. So it's need-based. The HUD grant cannot be used to remediate lead water hazards. It's a paint program, so it can be used to remediate paint hazards and hazards in soil. We use braided funding, so Healthy Homes money, a grant from Mother Cabrini, to replace the water lines when necessary. As of February 15th, $625,000 has been allocated or spent on lead-based paint hazard remediation throughout the city, and $111,000 has been allocated or spent on healthy homes repairs in 33 units throughout the city. Obviously, COVID had severely impacted our grant activity. We were about to launch the program, and then COVID hit, whole world shut down, now you can't get supplies. So we are requesting an extension, a year extension on that grant, which will run it through September of 2023, and we're anticipating serving a total of 90 units through that program. And some evidence based on our risk assessments that we've done in the 33 units. They've all had lead hazards. We haven't gone into a single home where there hasn't been. Lead dust and deteriorated lead-based paint have been the most common sources of those lead hazards. And the most common components that contain lead are windows and window trim, door and door trim, painted stairs, and porches. Only one property that had 2 units in it had evidence of lead in the water, because we test when we go into the home. The level was still below the action level. The source of the lead in the water was not even the service line, because that had already been previously replaced. It was interior plumbing lines and the fixtures at the tap. So we took care of that problem for them and provided filters on top of that. We test bare soil as a part of every risk assessment, and based on the 33 units enrolled in Lead Safe Utica, only 2 properties, which have 3 units, tested above the action level and required soil remediation. So soil, we aren't seeing a huge problem in that either, but we don't have a lot of bare soil in these units, so we test when there's bare soil.
And we did speak to Dan Gilmore at the health department, since they also do risk assessments and environmental investigations, and he said this is consistent with what they're seeing as well, that most of the lead risks and the hazards that they're seeing are coming from paint, then soil, and water is the least frequent.
So some suggestions to prepare to address lead. Lead remediation is a key component to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that is coming our way. And that includes money for lead-based paint and lead water service lines. And there's the link to that briefing if you want to read it. Given the short amount of time to expend ARPA funding, it may be in the best interest of the city to expand existing programs or provide funding for planning to implement future projects as a part of the federal infrastructure investment. Lead-Free Mohawk Valley supported the creation of an online tool that estimates the cost and the benefits of lead hazard control to address lead paint in hazards of homes and children born in Utica before 2019. So we have that link. Feel free to play around in that calculator. It is Utica specific. So for every dollar of lead hazard control that we do, it'll show the benefit back to the community.
And so we do know that, you know, in previous rounds, the city has received some lead pipe work. We know that the lead and copper rule just got redone, and that some of that mapping and some of that infrastructure planning work is part of the work that is included in the lead and copper rule update. So we know that in the next 3 to 5 years that that's part of what needs to be done. I'm not really sure on the Infrastructure and Investment Job Act how soon you'll actually see that money, but it will be coming, and to be able to be prepared to know which lines need to be replaced. We talk about this all the time. All houses have lead hazards. Some houses have lead water lines. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is an active hazard. It means that the lead is there. So in some houses that have been resided, painting has been encapsulated, they have been maintained well, the lead may still be under some type of encapsulation measure, but it isn't posing a risk to the household or to the family. And similarly with water lines, if the corrosion control is working and they don't have fixtures inside the house that is causing a problem, then that protection measure is working. So there are some houses that obviously need lead hazard work, a lot of them in the city of Utica, just based on the deteriorated condition of properties. There are also lead service lines that will need to be replaced. So really the objective is to find those ones that are creating the most hazard and replace those, because the amount of time, money, ability to remediate and remove every piece of lead in the city of Utica is just unfathomable. So in this case, you really need to prioritize where are those biggest risks? Where are the houses that you may see a high water reading? Where are the houses where you're coming back with a high risk assessment, and address those first? So the price to our community, there's been a lot of research that when a child is poisoned, it has neurological impacts to IQ, attention deficit, the ability to control behavior, and a lot of that links back to an inability or a disadvantage to learning because they can't pay attention in a classroom, or they have a difficulty retaining information. It also obviously has health impacts because of how it gets consumed in the body. It has a really large impact on crime and criminal justice, particularly violent crime. And so and workforce, the ability for them to hold a job if they haven't been able to get through the education system, and then all the social services that go with that. So if a child can be prevented from ever being poisoned, that is the ultimate way to prevent all of these long-term social outcomes that cost communities like ours a ton of money. And so for us, preventing the poisoning is the ultimate idea. Once a child's been poisoned, you can't go back. There is no way of fixing it. They will have that permanent brain damage for a lifetime. All of those implications that come with that, you don't get to reverse those things. So it took decades to create this problem. I mean, we've got a very old city with a lot of old housing stock. So this really shouldn't be viewed as an either or. It's not paint or water. It is a combination of both in the highest priority units, housing and property. And this can't be a one-time investment. I mean, this is something that took decades to create, and it is certainly going to take a long time to address. One of the biggest parts of it was, Utica was a very wealthy city, and wealthy cities pre-1978 just used a lot of lead paint. It was high-end product, it adhered well, the colors were vibrant. There are a whole lot of reasons they used that product. So when our wealth is now the burden to bear for our residents who are now facing poverty or can't maintain their housing. So it's a heavy price for our community to pay. The good news is lead poisoning is 100% preventable. If you are doing the activities that are required to make sure that a house is lead safe or lead free, that poisoning doesn't happen and your community can thrive from that point forward. That's it. Yes. There's our contact information. Please, by all means, feel free to contact us, ask us questions. We have a lot of information.
You guys, if anybody has questions right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple quick questions. So in terms of the lead in the pipes, we should be all flushing our lines first thing in the morning, right?
So-
Get up in the morning, you haven't used your water for 8 hours, you should turn on the sink for a minute before you fill up your coffee pot, correct?
That is definitely one of the easiest things you can do to make sure that the corrosion control measures are
Okay.
working.
Second question, so if I'm living in a house that was built in 1900 or something like that, but I keep it up, I've repainted, all painted surfaces have been repainted, I don't have chipping paint, et cetera. There may be lead paint under there,
There-
but
yeah.
there probably is.
There probably is.
But I've encapsulated it, if I've painted over if everything's been painted and nothing is,
You've performed what's called an interim control, which is good for 3 years. So painting over lead paint lasts about 3 years, and then the friction and the impact starts to deteriorate that top level of paint, and that's when the lead dust comes back. So on your windows, you might not see chipping and peeling paint, but you're wearing away that top level of paint. If you really truly wanted to get rid of the lead, you'd either have to replace the window or use a lead encapsulant compound paint, which guarantees 30 years of protection against the lower level of paint.
but if I don't have children, then I'm not too worried about it.
Correct.
Yes.
So this is definitely an issue that affects children under age 6 most. In New York State, you're required to have a lead level test for your children at age 1 and again at age 2, hopefully to find those issues early before the damage increases.
So all the children in Utica, I'm sorry, this will be my last question.
Yep.
All the children in Utica are getting their blood tested on an annual basis?
They should have a lead test at their first birthday
Okay.
and again at their second birthday. Utica's compliance rate is about 66%. So
Okay.
2 out of 3 children are actually meeting that state mandate, but that is the state law.
And then are we tracking the results of those 66%?
They go into a database at the Oneida County Health Department, and that's where the health department, if they're above 5 micrograms per deciliter of blood lead level, then they'll do the environmental investigation, and they have some very compelling tools, including large fines that they can.
But how many children are meeting that threshold that you just mentioned?
So 66% of children, so 2 out of 3 are actually getting the test.
No, and how many
Oh,
of
sorry.
the children who are getting the test?
Yep.
How many are being found to have elevated blood levels that are meeting that threshold? How many children in Utica are being poisoned?
So that is a little bit more difficult to say because the health department does not release that information as frequently as we would all like to see it.
Okay.
So for Oneida County, and you have to remember, this is Oneida County data, so it's a little harder to come up to get, but about 25% is the estimate for particularly zip code, I think 13501.
Okay.
So 1 out of 4.
Okay, that's my number.
Yep, and I can find that data. They do have a place where you can pull data by zip code, but like I said, the last time I think that was updated was like 2016. So how accurate it is, the health department is not fantastic about releasing their data. We've been working in particular, we did testify in front of the New York State Senate, asking them to change a provision in the law. So the federal HIPAA portion of disclosure allows an entity that is doing a public health purpose, like the city of Utica, as a lead grantee, to have a HIPAA compliance officer, which Christine is, receive information from the health department so you specifically provide the grant funding to people and families and children that have been poisoned.
Okay.
New York State has an obscure regulation that's in their public health law that excludes that data exchange. So in November, I testified in front of the New York State Senate and basically said, you need to follow the federal guidance that allows communities with HUD lead hazard control grants to receive that information to do better targeted implementation.
Well, ladies, thank you very much. It was a very informative presentation. Is there anything else that you
I
want
just want to say one more thing. So it's not the difference between the river and Lake Superior, my understanding was not that they didn't do corrosion control, but that the pH of those two bodies of water was off and they didn't adjust their corrosion control.
I've heard both things,
Okay.
so,
Okay,
yep.
thank you so much. Thank you very much. Super.
And
Wonderful
I will
job.
say I'm not the water expert. I can talk all day about lead paint, but.
Wonderful job. Thank you very much
Thank
again.
you.
Very informative.
Thank you. Thanks, Katie.
Okay. By the way, council, if there's any questions, there's also a website and a telephone number on that flyer. So if you would like to contact for more information, or if you have any residents in the city of Utica that would like their house possibly tested and possibly grant money, please contact the website or the telephone number. We'll go from there. Thank you. I'd like to start with the legislation. Resolution number 1, concerning Councilman Delvin Moody. Councilman Williamson recommended that we refer to committee. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, we'll refer it to committee. Our next piece of legislation, this next piece of legislation is resolution number 2. It's concerning the SUNY IT. The county just passed a similar piece of legislation. This is to preserve SUNY IT upstate. If anybody heard Governor Hochul's announcement, of course, we want to do everything to preserve the operation and the process that SUNY IT is drawing for this area. The nanotech, everything we could to preserve this. Like I said, the county just passed this very similar legislation. We just changed a few names on it. I'd like to see if the full council would sponsor it.
I would, yes.
Everybody good with it? Any opposed? Full council? Clerk, please. Our next piece of legislation is ordinance number 3, sponsored by Councilwoman Friend. Councilwoman Friend, you have the floor. Would you like to give us a summary and what you would like to do?
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. I'd like to place this in committee, and we'll have a committee meeting down the road, to which we'll invite lots of people. I would like to make one very small change. So on page 3, at the bottom of page 3, under where it says section 2-6-403, under that I'd like to add 2-6-402, and the clerk could consult with the judge. He'll show you exactly where that is. Okay, that's the only change I have to make. So this is a law that other neighboring cities have enacted and have had great success with. This law that the judge helped me put together is based on an Albany law that they passed fairly recently. They've had really great success with it. Rome has a similar law. Schenectady has a similar law. Troy has a similar law. So again, I want to just put this into committee and have a lot of people come in and discuss it down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman's Friend. Anybody opposed in referring this committee? Legislation will be referred to committee. Our next piece of legislation is resolution number 4, sponsored by Councilwoman Classimo Testa. Mrs. Classimo Testa, you have the floor. Would you like to give us a summary on your legislation? Yes.
Please use your mics. Thank you. Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is just a proclamation. Done it in the past, just recognizing Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week inside the city of Utica. So.
Would you like the rest of the council to co-sponsor?
Yeah, if the council wants to sponsor, the councils in the past have, so I don't see why this would be any different.
Everybody agree to co-sponsor? Very good. Clerk? Full council.
Full council.
Our next piece of legislation comes with a letter of necessity from a certificate of necessity from our Mayor, Paul Murray. It's concerning a local law that authorizes the city for procurement for the best standards. What department head would like to speak on this piece of legislation?
So basically what this legislation is, and I actually sponsored it back in 2013, the state of New York they went out for a purchase for driver's license. The driver's license actually ended up peeling. So they had to go with the lowest bidder. So what the state of New York did was allowed municipalities to go out and put legislation in for what they consider best value. So you didn't have to go with the lowest bidder, you went with the most responsible bidder. The difference of the legislation that was presented in 2013, and I had a discussion with Mr. Mahoney about it earlier, was that it didn't exclude paving contracts. And why we didn't pass it in 2013 was because of the concern of paving contracts. What this local law does now is it actually is a section in there which amends paving contracts. So with that said, I think it's in the best interest of the council to pass it because it just makes sense as far
So
as
you're
the
also
process of bids
interested in
going.
sponsor it too?
Yeah, I'll sponsor it, absolutely.
Is there a full council sponsor? Clerk, please, full council. I guess, Mr. Department Heads, is there any questions for our department heads pending this local law? It needs minimum of 6 votes, but it's sponsored by unanimous, so I'm pretty sure we got that number. Are there any of my colleagues have any questions for our department heads?
I'd like to ask one quick question. Can you just explain to us why this is coming to us at the nth hour? Like,
Well, I mean, I'll speak on this. I mean, with the money, the ARPA money that's come down, every community got money. Every community is going out to do various projects and all sorts of buying and all this stuff. And it's really is just to get us ahead of the game so we can get out there, get things ordered as necessary, get projects going. So 'cause we're all competing for a very small pool of people
of
and
equipment,
services,
stuff.
stuff.
Right, okay.
So that's really it.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Mahoney. So I just want to make everybody, usually we let a local law sit on the table for 7 days in its final form before we're allowed to vote on it. We're making an exception to this on the basis of necessity, just so that everybody understands. The time is of the essence in this case, and so we're being asked to vote on a local law the first time that it comes to the council, which is unusual but warranted in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Celeste Friend. That sums up the legislation in the pre-meeting conference. Councilman Frankie DeBrango, is there anything out of committee of the whole today?
Well, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. Everybody has it in front of them. Any discussion on any other pieces? I don't think, I don't see anything. We might be able to eliminate a couple, but we can do that at another time. We can full meeting.
So at this time, no legislation is coming out of committee. Am I correct,
That is
Councilman?
correct.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions or any discussions at this time? Because we'll close the meeting and have a little break until the big meeting at 7 o'clock.
That never happens. Nice.
Okay, pre-caucus meeting is now closed, and we have a little time. Thank you very much, Council.
February 16th, I'm going to call this meeting of the Common Council to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Aiello, Burmaster, Friend, Miola, Moody, Beatrice, Williamson, Colasso Testa, DeBrango, Galimi, all present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the deceased members of the council. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry, I lost a wheel on my chair there. So. First order of business is the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes this evening, Mr. President.
Is there a second? Okay, we got a second from Williamson. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes have been posted to Ecode 360 and accepted by the Common Council.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules of order for a moment.
You'd like the floor.
Yes.
Is there a second? We have a second from Miola. Any opposed? You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'll be brief in this. Over the past few days, I've spent a lot of time in reflection and thought and much prayer. During this deep introspective look, I made it a point to be completely honest with myself, and this statement is born out of a blunt assessment of my life and my journey. I got into politics at 22 years old. I stepped up with a zeal and a desire to make my community better. At a young age, I took on the world and fought for issues I believe in. My motivation was simple. I wanted an area of the city I love, Cornhill, to be a better place. Being so young when I entered, I was forced to do a great deal of growing up in the public eye. I'm grateful to those who have helped me to learn the ins and outs of politics. And I think that I've learned quite quickly given all of my teachers. I certainly worked tirelessly to help to improve Cornhill and improve the lives of the people that I love. I fought for Cornhill at every turn, and I'm proud of what we got accomplished. I love Cornhill, and I believe that the best days are ahead. Now in life, I have learned firsthand that I have prioritized so many others and neglected myself in the process. As a young man, I have grown in the public, and I feel now it is best to heal in private. I have begun that process, and I feel that it would be best done away from the public limelight. While there is so much that can be said, I'll be brief in this. In late of 2021, last year, I had made the decision to pursue furthering my education in pursuit of a PhD in religion. And many of you are aware that I'm a graduate student at Colgate now. This year, it was my intention to resign from the council over the summer and relocate out of the area to start my academic career. Cornhill and Utica as a whole deserves representation that can be laser focused on the issues. There is a lot going on in this city, and having any sort of distraction from that progress is not beneficial to the ward or to the city that I love. Staying on the council at this point, I feel would be detrimental to the forward momentum that is currently happening. Elected officials represent people, and this is what is best for them. Given academics, family, and my transition out of the area, my full attention. I absolutely love public service and serving my community. I've been a fighter, but I'm also an honest voice, and I can honestly say that this moment calls for clear and undistracted representation. With that in mind, it is my intention to resign from the council in the coming weeks. Once my successor has been chosen and named, and my community has picked the next council member to serve on this council. It has been an honor of a lifetime to serve on the Common Council. And while serving on the council, I am proud of what we have been able to accomplish. Every year that I've been on this council, we've had the most paving to the district. The Black Lives Matter mural is up, passing a public safety community board and a $13 million business incubator on James Street, I feel will significantly improve the lives of many to come. I sincerely appreciate those who have helped and supported me. And I ask you continue to do that and show your love and support to Delvin the citizen as you did to Delvin the councilman. Thank you to my colleagues for all of your support in the past few years and in the last term. I look forward to getting past this moment, returning to make Utica better as a whole and as a healed person from this moment. Thank you, Mr. President, for the floor.
Thank you. Is that all at this time?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on with the order of the meeting. Next order of business is public hearing, and we have no properties and or legislation during that time, so the public hearing is now closed. Public comment period is next, so I will call the first speaker. Yusel, please approach the podium. The Common Council has provided you a copy of 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes.
Please state your name and you may speak. Thank you. Oh, yeah, you can pass. Yeah, pass them up. Mhm. So, yes, thank you. I did receive an electronic copy that I'm going to be distributing to the council. Thank you. Yeah.
Is it on?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Yahya Haji. I'm the student from Proctor High School. I just graduated 2020. And I never had a graduation since COVID came in. And I'm the first generation from my family, just graduated from Proctor. From high school and educate. I'm so happy. And I started working St. Elizabeth when I was the age of 18. It was 2020. Working in a hospital, I learned a lot of stuff, And I'm as a young age, I just learned a lot of stuff, what's going on in this community, what's going on in the city of Utica. So it takes me a moment to understand everything what's going on. We're losing a lot of youth, every night and every day. There's one time I just emailed the city of Utica. I was asking if they can build a soccer field in Bleecker Street. And they emailed back, there was like, they cannot do anything, They can't build any soccer field near private property. The city does not belong to there. And at this moment, I was only 18 and I have kids. We're just playing street soccer at the age of 16. We grew up of 16. And in July 18 of 2021, one of our young brother got killed, and I just emailed the city, we need to make a change, I know you guys built a soccer field in the Proctor Park, and we're not allowed to go there. Every time we go there, we get kicked out with the police. So I asked the city, what should we do with this? I emailed them again. Clark emailed me back, he was so sorry about what happened. A young brother just passed away. Ever since that, I started bringing this kid to MVCC. There's a whole soccer field over there. It's like open soccer field. So I started bringing this kid over there, started developing them to just keep them out of trouble. Yeah, it's hard since COVID came in. Kids are just focusing about other stuff. It's hard. So I see a lot of stuff in the hospital, you know. There's kids they're doing suicidal, and there's a lot of homicides going on in Utica. So I was thinking about, as a young my age, I should give my community, it's called the whole Utica back, I should come up to it, show these kids that I can do for them a better way, I started a soccer program. All these kids were doing they were in troubles and stuff. I keep them in a good position, coming to soccer field, just start training, just make them love soccer, just focus in the sport, rather than be in trouble. So ever since that, things are getting better. At the beginning when I had these kids, we were only a group of 16 kids. Right now it's a big group I have, which is 82 players. There's more players coming in every day. They keep texting me, "Can I enjoy your team?" And the only way they can enjoy my team if they're taking care of the school educations. I want all these kids to take care of their educations, and sport is a part of the activity to make them be active to it. So now, since I have all these kids, it's hard for me to put them in a league and stuff. And yeah, winter came up, it's got a cold. We had no place to play. I try my best, and I work in the hospital. I'm just a young guy, so every paycheck I have, I just pay for these kids. Just take out my little cars every time. I do 16 trip every time, just pick up these kids, take to practice, bring back. As an African community, we're not the same like American lifestyle, because their parents were not going to be there supporting the kids every time to watch the kids practicing and everything. But I'm doing the best what I can do for these kids. As my religion teach me, it tells me, whatever you learn, give it back. Learn, it's called teach other people the better way you can do it. The only reason I'm here today, I just learned a lot of stuff in the hospital. Taking the body down the morgue, it's really taught me a lot of stuff. So I was like, there's not no way I can take my own little brother or my community brother to take it downstairs in the morgue, man. I can't do it no more. I gotta step up with this stuff. So right now I just bring all these kids together, and they're playing soccer. They're loving the sport. 2 weeks ago we had a soccer tournament, and that was our first tournament we won as a team. The only thing I would just want to see these kids, their faces, is smile, that they can, I can do something for them, and they can do something for themselves. I know Utica, we have a lot of talent, kids who play sport. It don't matter if it's football, soccer, or basketball. But once they graduate, they will lose their talent in the street. And I don't want these kids to end up in a bad way. My kids right now, I keep telling them, you gotta believe in yourself, that one day you're gonna play in the pro, I tell these kids every time, your world is big as you make it. So I know Utica is a small place, nobody knows about us, we play soccer, there's the D1 college, coaches are not even watching us. I know we live in a small world, but I tell this kid, you prove yourself, I'm gonna do whatever I can do for you guys to take you guys to the next level, But yeah, it's hard for me, driving these kids back to back every time on my small car. If I can have anything, the Utica City can help out. I know many people already heard about my story. The police over there, he's the one who training me with the summer youth programs. I had him, he training me, it was lovely. The summer youth used to be good stuff, but COVID came in, it's hard to do everything at one time. I'm only 19 right now, and this guy's my brother right here too. He's only 20. So when we planned this stuff, we were so young. We were only 17 by that time. We should come up with this great idea. Let's support our kids, man. I'm lucky that I'm working in the hospital and I'm doing professional jobs. he's the only person that he works with the DoorDash, you know. He's driving his own car every time back to back. You know, he's trying to help me too, you know, with this kids, giving a ride every time. So yeah, outside is cold. We can't play outside no more. You know, we gotta find a facility for us to play and stuff. Yeah, you got something to say?
All right, at this time, if you'd like to say a few more words and then conclude, and then, yeah, come up, just say a few more words, please, and then I already forwarded your presentation to the clerk so that it could be sent to the full council as well as the Parks Department, et cetera. Thank you. So if you could.
Hey everyone, my name is Yusuf. My nickname is Solomon Abukar. I hope everybody's having a great evening. As my fellow Yaya said, he explained everything. I don't have much to say, but now we have 82 kids, and the name is our organization name is like a foundation team. Is a team. The team is our Future FC. We want the youth to have at least footstep to follow. I don't want to see my brothers or my neighbor's brother, everybody in the community, ending up dying in the street, dying at age. That was my cousin when he died. He was 14 years old. He got shot. 2020. And now my friend and me, we came up with the idea, you know, we could do something, help our brothers stay out of trouble. Now, Future FC is not only about soccer. We said if they're not passing school, they're not doing good in school, we have to find a way to help them in their classes with like anything. If they need help with their homeworks, tutoring, like anything they wanna be helped. Sam, I graduated 2020 Proctor. I know we're so young, but the idea we came up with, I know we can help hundreds of kids in Utica. And we were asking help from the city Utica, if they can help us with anything. We make like 7, 8, 9 trips a day. I don't work. I work for DoorDash for just flexible schedule. Whenever there's a practice, so I could just go, drop off these kids, stay with them. I'm a player too. I play soccer. I played for Proctor like 4 years, since 9th grade to 12th grade. I mean,
Yeah,
sorry.
it's quite all right.
So anything, whatever Utica City could do, we will appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. The next speaker is Lucretia Hunt. The Common Council's provided you with Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Thank you. These young people are worth listening to. They know what they're talking about. This is our city, our people. I have heart for them. Good luck to you, and I hope that more people listen to your plight. Mine is very simple. I want to talk about the street lights. The streets are dark. There are areas here that need those new bulbs to be brighter. I'm worried. I came over Bleecker Street and some of it is dark. Mike, please listen to me, okay? All right? So we need to do something about the improvement of the street lights. Okay? That's all I'm here to ask you. East Utica Neighborhood Watch, we want to improve the lighting in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Al LaSalle, please come forward. Al. We ready? The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Will you abide by this?
Yes, I will.
All right, please state your name and you may begin.
Al LaSalle. I reside here in God's country, Utica, New York. You know, we heard about the lights, the streets and the lights. Mine, I want to talk about parking. Seems like every time I turn on the TV, which is all the time, they're talking about parking for the hospital. Well, how about the other parts of the city? Seems like they forgot all about East Utica, North Utica, South Utica, West Utica. It's all the hospital, the hospital, the hospital. And they're taking up, the hospital's taking a lot of tax revenue buildings and putting it into the new hospital, which is tax-free. So it just don't seem right to me, the way this thing is going. Now I want to change the subject a little bit. I look around and I can recall back in the late 70s, I had a few people recently say, Al, why don't you run for the council? And I tell them, in the late 70s, I did run for the council. There were 3 open seats. And there was 4 people running. When they got all through, I was 5th. It's a lot to do, and you people on the council, I've thanked you at every meeting just about, because I think you're doing a heck of a good job. Especially the 3 lovely women have to fight with you men, and sometimes they win, most of the times they lose. Now we're going in the right direction, that's for sure. And let's not deviate and give up or anything else. Let's keep going. Keep our nose to the grindstone and keep on going. And as I said before, thank you. I'll say it again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much. The final speaker this evening is Richard Morris. If you could please come forward. The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244 Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
I am, Mr. President.
Please state your name and you may begin.
Richard Morris. Okay. Yeah. Huh.
Last minute edits.
No, I can't find it. Okay. Sorry about that. After hearing tonight's presentation, I have a few remarks. I can encapsulate paint. I can paint it over lead. I can use raised beds, but I cannot remove lead pipes without some help. Many in the city will need financial help to accomplish removal on their private property. I also heard reference to infrastructure money is coming. Well, as I've shown before, infrastructure bill money cannot be used in New York State for private property for lead service line removal. Currently, only ARPA funds and New York State 2017 600K grant can be used. You have documents to support this statement. Senator Manchin says Build Back Better bill is dead, so no help there. Once again, showing ARPA funds are the key for lead service line removal and should be put aside in a separate account for lead service line removal. EPA says that lead in water is responsible for 20% of the adult lead intake and up to 60% in infants and small children. You can't minimize that. Testing actions, the Department of Health is actually 5. The CDC is lowering it now to 3.5. You cannot chemically additive, corrosion control, filter, boil, study your way out of the fact that regulations for lead and water will become stricter and stricter, and that the lead service lines in Utica will have to be taken out due to either federal mandate or environmental justice civil rights lawsuit. Then the ARPA funds will either be spent or the time limit to use them will have expired, leaving residents with no help financially to get rid of their lead service lines and private property. Taking out the lead pipes now gives us immediate health savings and benefits. In addition, as I have documented previously, lead service line removal will provide a large economic stimulus of millions of dollars and be a large job creator for our city. Contrary to what you've heard tonight, lead service line removal can be done in a relatively short time frame using new technology and statistical analysis to find and then quickly remove the pipes. Newark removed 18,000 lines in 18 months, while in Benton Harbor, Michigan, contractors start work this month and will be done removing 4,000 lines by spring 2023. We only have 2,500 or 3,000. We can do it too, but it takes bold visionary leadership. Let us not continue to be Mananaville, where our slogan is, do not do today what you can put off till tomorrow, next week, next year, next decade, or next century. Where never is heard a proactive word, and we drink leaded water all day. Bring the resolution to remove all lead service lines in Utica out of committee and up for a vote. The sooner it's passed, the sooner we can help our children and our children's children, and we can provide a much-needed economic stimulus and give all our residents clean, safe, lead-free drinking water forever. Lastly, Delvin, I've spoken to you a few times on the phone. We've had some good conversations. I'd like to say that you did the right thing tonight. I think you have a lot of potential as a human being, and I hope that when you work things out, I hope that you'll come back to our community, because I think you have a lot to offer us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot to say,
Hey,
contact your council person about the lights. They know their areas. Celeste, you know your section, you all do. So, because there are lights in the city that are not bright enough, and I am afraid, and it goes along with what these kids say, we need to be protected. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, public comment period is now closed. Okay. We do have a common council guest this evening. Public comment is now closed, and I'd like to bring up Michelle McKenna and Trina DeFranco from the Daughters of the American Revolution to present on the Hometown Heroes banner project. I believe each council person has received a packet that they can go through. And you are a common council guest. You are not bound by the public comment period rules. Thank you for coming this evening, and we look forward to your presentation.
Well, thank you. I'm really excited to be here tonight and honored, frankly. And since I'm not bound by any rules, might as well just sit back.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm going to keep it very brief. I passed out this handout. It's a very simple initiative. I'm not sure if, as you've gone around the state, you've seen, and if you drive through villages, the banners that honor our veterans. It's something that we'd like to do. We'd like to have the banners for vets lining Memorial Parkway and beyond if possible. Initially, Memorial Parkway. So you can see on the third page a picture of them from a village up by Lake Champlain. They put theirs on telephone poles, but we're proposing the light posts. So what we're asking basically is authorization to put the banners up, installation support, and we'd like to hang them on just before Memorial Day and take them down just after Veterans Day. and possibly storage. The program that we're talking about is being sponsored by the Oneida chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. There's been a committee that's been formed with the Vietnam veterans and the Order of the Purple Heart, who are here in support of the presentation tonight. And that's it. Thank you. Is there any questions about it?
Thank you very much. The only question I do have
Yes.
is, have you coordinated at all at this point with DPW and or anyone else with the city?
I have talked to people in Mark Sokolowski.
Okay. Okay.
And he was waiting until we go through all the procedures that we need to.
Oh. Okay, very good. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate any support. And if there's any other kind of questions, about it, we're going to, basically each family member will be able to buy a banner for their loved one in support of it, and we'll be actually doing fundraising for the hardware to hang them. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman Williamson, I'd like to co-sponsor that legislation with you.
We do have communications from the mayor this evening, which I will present to the council. Mayor Robert Palmieri, February 16th, 2022, mayor's message to the common council. The mayor states he wants to share several updates with the common council. On February 10th, Governor Hochul lifted the state mask mandate for businesses and public-facing facilities. The city has re-implemented the policy that was in effect prior to the state's mask mandate. This policy includes members of the public who enter City Hall and any city facilities. The mayor's message states they must still wear a mask regardless of vaccination status. City employees who are vaccinated do not have to wear masks, and city employees who are unvaccinated are still required to wear masks. This policy will remain in effect until the end of the month, as it will be reevaluated over the next several weeks, and further guidance will be shared. On February 14th, the Board of Estimate and Apportionment voted to pass the budget to the Common Council. The mayor thanks the city staff who worked diligently in preparing the budget. The administration is proposing the introduction of Local Law Number 2, which authorizes the city to use the best value procurement standard. In addition, the administration has submitted a message of necessity and is asking the council to adopt this law, which would require 2/3 majority. Accompanying the local law and a message of necessity is a memorandum by City Attorney Charles Brown, which provides detailed information as to the city's benefit in the council adopting this legislation. Any questions about the need for this legislation can be directed to the Department of Public Works Commissioner Dave Short or City Attorney Sarah Hughes, who is in attendance this evening. Last weekend, the city provided winter activities for kids and families at Vail by Alice, which was a successful event. The city will be offering limited winter activities on a regular schedule, Thursdays and Fridays from 5 to 9 p.m. and Saturdays and Sundays from noon to 5 p.m. In addition to these times during the week of winter break, additional activities will take place on February 23rd through the 25th from 4 to 9 p.m. and February 26th through and the 27th from noon to 5 p.m. All activities are dependent on the weather. That concludes the mayor's message to the council. Next order of business, reports from the city officers. Corporation Counsel.
Nothing to report.
Thank you very much. Lieutenant Ashley Berger from the Police Department. Anything this evening? Thank you very much. Thank you for your attendance. Engineer. You're fine. All right, perfect. All right.
You forgot my name. It's
Yeah, Mike Mahoney. Sorry, I said just Corporation Counsel.
It is tough, Michael.
You don't want to talk about streetlights?
How are them lights?
You ever heard
They good?
from Lucretia
You want to
before?
talk about streetlights?
No, we're good. I think we're good. But thank you for listening. Assistant Chief Noon.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Commissioner Thomas.
Nothing tonight.
Commissioner Phillips.
Okay. Two things. One, I personally feel bad if I didn't thank Delvin for his service and his friendship. I'm a resident of the 5th Ward, and I have an affinity for your seat, and I appreciate all the work that you've done. So, that being said, the second thing is, there was a collapse on Oriskany Street of a structure, and I got a lot of questions about that. So I just wanted to take brief time to kind of explain to you what the city's role was in overseeing that, which was there was no building permit taken out on that building. The owner applied for a building permit, and we never granted it because he hadn't gone through all of the steps that you need to go through to get an approved construction project. We put a stop work order on that building before it was a building, while they were still grading out the soil for that site. We asked them to stop construction on it and go through the process so we could review their plans, so we could make sure that the building was being built properly and with all the regulations that come along with New York State. He proceeded to build the building anyway. We ticketed him several times, and the building ended up collapsing. Our lawyers were in the process of seeking an injunction to stop the building. Now, they pulled a building permit yesterday a demolition permit to demolish the structure, and we did grant that because they have the necessary things in place to demolish the structure that's there. If they want to rebuild, they have to go back to the codes department, apply for a building permit, and go through all the steps that are possible so we can supervise the build like we would any other build. That's it.
Thank you for that report. There were quite a few questions on that.
Huh? Yeah. Exactly.
That concludes the reports from city officers. Do we have a cash report this evening?
City of Utica cash report for January 2022 totals 49.8 million received and filed.
Thank you very much. Petitions, remonstrances, and appeals. First District Council Member Katie Aiello, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lucretia, I'm with you on the streetlights. So I actually have a spreadsheet. Michael, I think we'll have a fun week going over all this, of all the streetlights I think in our area that could have a little bit better lighting. So thank you for bringing that up. And that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Second District Council Member Robert Burmaster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have anything at this time, but thank you.
Thank you. Third District Council Member Celeste Friend, you have the floor.
I don't have anything this evening, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Fourth District Council Member and Majority Leader Frank Miola.
As long as everybody else is passing, Mr. President, I might as well join the crowd. I passed tonight.
All right. Fifth District Council Member Delvin Moody.
Nothing at this time, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Sixth District Council Member Joseph Beatrice.
Yes, I just want to say, Delvin, I wish the best of luck to you, and good luck to you in the future.
Councilman at Large and Minority Leader Mark Williamson, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We were going to pull out resolution number 1, but Councilman Moody said he's going to resign shortly, so I'm not going to pull this out.
Okay.
Discharge, Mr. President.
Making a motion.
Let's make the motion after remonstrances. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman at Large Samantha Claus-Motesta, you have the floor.
I've got nothing at this time.
Thank you. Councilman at Large Frank DeBrango.
I do have something to say.
All right.
First, it's about the street lights. We made a decision a couple of years ago to go with the LED lighting through NIPA, and we financed it ourselves. With the LED lighting, I know a lot of people think, it's not bright enough or whatever, but they do have the ability to turn it higher or lower so the lighting could get a little bit better in the neighborhood. So if you do have an issue, I'm sure we can help you out in that respect. But by doing this, we saved about $80,000 a month, paying National Grid. So I thought it was a great idea. I think it's working. If you actually go underneath the light, it is very bright, but when you look at it at an angle, it doesn't look as bright as you're approaching it. So as far as the LED lights, I'm happy so far. And we have the ability, if one goes out, but through computer, they know exactly which one went out, and they can repair it, in a timely manner instead of waiting a week or two for National Grid. That's the way it used to be anyway. As far as the two gentlemen there and the high school gentlemen from the Future Football Club there, I appreciate your time and working with other youths and trying to lead them in the right direction. I'm very proud that you guys are working and you're playing sports, because that's a big part of life right there. And if you can, I know a lot of organizations, they do have fund drives, sell popcorn, candy, whatever it may be. So if you can get some leader, you know, that would help out, and you guys could just actually stand out in front of a store or something if they allow it, and sell candy bars or whatever it may be. So there is way to fund your organization. I know you're looking for the city to help out financially. There's a lot of organizations that need help financially, so it'd be tough if we help one, we'd have to help a lot of others. So, but we'll look into it and see if we can help it, and I'll ask a few questions on your behalf. I know the mayor put out a memo regarding the parkway, and it's going to be open for limited activities. And a lot of people come up to me, and I see it on Facebook and things of that nature. We need ski patrols. So today I actually looked up the ski patrols of Central New York. I spoke to a gentleman, and we talked a little bit and said what it take to be a ski patrol person. And he acknowledged that we might be able to use firefighter paramedics for ski patrol. So if some of the guys ski or some of the gals on the department ski, they might be able to help out up there. And also maybe not even have to ski, maybe use a snowmobile or something to patrol the area. So we might be able to do that. I did talk to the mayor before the meeting. I called him. I gave him all the information, so he's looking into it. So we might be able to come up with some ski patrols so the people could actually ski up there and enjoy the week off that we're going to have next week, and you know, for the spring break and things of that nature. So I'm hoping that that it works out once he talks to this gentleman, and we can get some volunteers, if not volunteers, even pay him, and let's. I remember years ago, as a youth, I was up there ice skating, skiing, and it's a good sport, and get out in the fresh air instead of sitting home and playing on those video games. So hopefully this will work out. That's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anything this evening, so we'll move on. Before we get to the legislation that's currently in the packet, however, we do have, it's been passed out, and I'd like to request that someone make a motion and introduce to place in committee the annual estimate for 2022-2023 budget year.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. President, I know they make a motion, but first we have to waive the Thursday rule, sir.
Okay.
Motion to waive the Thursday rule.
All right. Any opposed to waiving that?
And I'd like to second the motion to
Put it in committee.
put the annual estimate in committee.
Okay. The motion was from
Somebody over there.
Councilperson Testa, correct? Yes. Thank you. Any opposed to placing that in committee? All right. Council can officially start the budget process. Okay. Proposed resolution number 2. Can you please read, clerk? Thank you. No. Read the first 2 paragraphs and the last 2 paragraphs.
A memorialization petition urging the governor and state legislator to abandon the proposal from the state of the state address to reunify SUNY Polytech Institute College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering with the University of Albany. Whereas on February 2nd, 2022, Governor Hochul announced a proposal in the state of the state address to reunify SUNY Polytech Institute College of Nanoscale Science and Engineering with the University at Albany. And whereas the established in 2014, the combined campuses provide a world-class academic institution that provides essential academic and economic benefits to the Mohawk Valley and Central New York region. And whereas the Common Council of the City of Utica calls on the governor and state legislator to discontinue the reunification of SUNY Polytech Institute College of Nanoscale Technology and Engineering with the University at Albany. Be it further resolved that the clerk of the Common Council is hereby directed to forward copies of this petition to Governor Kathy Hochul, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart, Senate Minority Leader Robert Orr, State Senators Joseph Griffo and Rachel May, Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie, Assembly Minority Leader William Barclay, Assembly Members Marianne Bunchon, Brian Miller, Kenneth Blakenbush, Robert Smullen, and all others deemed necessary and proper.
We have a motion from Miola.
Can you just capitalize state, that's all, before we send it to any
We have a
officials?
second.
Yes, to amend to capitalize state. In addition to that, Mr. President, this is at full council.
Okay. Your votes.
Nine yeas adopted.
Okay, proposed ordinance number 3, sponsored by Councilmember Friend. Will you be the motion on this?
I would like to make a motion to place this into committee, please, Mr. President.
We have a second from Miola. Okay, so there's a motion to place an ordinance establishing a vacant building registry into committee. Your votes.
Nine yeas in committee.
Thank you very much. Proposed resolution number 4, City of Utica Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week proclamation. Councilperson? Okay, thanks.
Whereas the health and well-being of all children throughout our city are of paramount importance to the city's families and communities, and where the thousands of children are born with birth defects every year, including approximately 40,000 children in the United States who begin life with one or more than 35 identified forms of congenital heart defects. And whereas congenital heart defects are among our city's most common birth defects, and they are often fatal due to their seriousness, lack of effective medical intervention options, and the limited availability of infant donor hearts. And whereas the organs and symptoms of congenital heart defects are becoming more readily identifiable, and the range of surgical options are expanding continuously thanks to doctors and scientists' diligent research efforts and field experiences that extend our body of knowledge every day. And whereas there is much to learn about the causes of the effective treatments for congenital heart defects, and it is important for parents, pediatricians, and nurses to recognize the warning signs associated with congenital heart defects among newborns so they may provide proper treatment as early as possible. Whereas many of our city's families and communities are directly or indirectly affected by infant illness and death caused by congenital heart defects. And I applaud the efforts of doctors and scientists everywhere who work diligently to solve life's medical mysteries and to improve the quality of life for us all. Now therefore, Mayor Robert Palmieri do hereby recognize February 14th through the 21st of 2022 is Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week in the City of Utica, and I call this observance to the attention of all our citizens.
This is sponsored by Councilmember Clausen Testa. Is there a second?
Second.
It is full council, but the sponsor's the motion. That's why I was stating that. Thank you. Williamson was the second, and please reflect full council. Your votes.
9 yeas adopted.
Thank you very much. All right, before we move on to the introductory to local law, I would just like to make a procedural note that proposed resolution 1, the censure resolution, was reviewed in pre-meeting conference but not introduced, so that will cease to exist. Okay, thank you. All right. Introduction to local law number 2, a local law of the City of Utica authorizing the use of best value procurement standard. Before we discuss this, I'd like to make a note that there is a letter of necessity signed by Robert Palmieri, which has been distributed to the council so that this may be acted on this evening if the council does choose to. Clerk, please summarize the local law. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to motion, Mr. President, and the certificate of necessity needs to be read into the record because it's...
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Lost my... Oh, there it is. All right. I'll read the certificate of necessity from Robert M. Palmieri, Mayor, February 11th, 2022. Introductory to local law number 2 of 2022, cooperative purchases. Introductory local law number 2 of 2022, which would allow the city to make purchases on a best value basis, will be introduced at your next meeting. I hereby certify the necessity for immediate passage of this local law pursuant to Section 2(4) of the Municipal Home Rule Law. This means that the local law may be passed at the same meeting that is introduced if it receives the affirmative vote of 2/3 of the voting power of the council, which of this council 6 votes. Signed, Robert M. Palmieri. Introductory to local law number 2, 2022 reads, be it enacted by the Common Council for the City of Utica, New York, Section 1, the Code of Local Laws of the City of Utica is hereby amended by adding thereto a new section as Section 1-2-88 to read as follows. Section 1-2-88, procurement by best value. Purpose, the Common Council of the City of Utica hereby enacts the following local law pursuant to the State of New York General Municipal Law, Section 103, Section 1, and all applicable laws. B, definition of best value. Accordingly, the City of Utica hereby authorizes the use of best value standard as part of city procurement policies. Best value is defined in New York State Finance Law, Section 163. When awarding contracts under the best value standard, the city must consider the overall combination of quality, price, and other elements of the required commodity or service that in total are optimal relative to the needs of the city, etc. C, procurement policy. The City of Utica shall update the procurement policy in accordance with provisions of this local law. Section 2, effective date. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing in the office of the New York State Secretary of State in accordance with Section 27 of the Municipal Home Rule Law. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second from Williamson. If there's no debate, your votes.
Nine yeas adopted.
Very much. Is there any other business this evening?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, Mr. President.
Second, Mr. President.
We have a second. Have a great evening.